Hi, my name is Marilyn Devonish, and welcome to Public Speaking Tips for the Terrified. And I'm just having a play around with Camtasia at the moment, and I know there are lots of whiz-bang features that I could include. However, I'm going to focus on content this time round as I take you through this mini sort of masterclass session. And in terms of this is really for people who are terrified of public speaking, scared of the thought of getting up on stage and speaking in front of a group, whether that's a large group, whether that's a small group. And this is one of the areas that is really, really close to my heart because I started off as someone who was absolutely terrified of public speaking, and I'll share a bit more of that as we go through this video. So what I want to do today is really show you some of the things that I learned along the way, which have helped me not just to be okay with public speaking, but to really, really enjoy it. In fact, love public speaking. So if you're in the camp of thinking it's not possible, it really, really is. So first of all, just to get a sense of where you're at, are you afraid or terrified at the thought of public speaking or presenting? Are you perhaps required to speak in public for your work or for your job, but you really absolutely dread doing so? It's that sort of thing where if somebody says, are you free to present at the meeting, or can you come and speak at my conference? Does your heart sink rather than going, great, fantastic, let me check if I'm free? Are you also someone who maybe would love to be able to present with more confidence and more impact, but you just feel it's something that you would never be able to do and you don't believe it's a skill you could learn? And are you someone who's looking to learn simple yet powerful techniques to enable you to be able to do all of this and more? So if you fit into any one of those categories, this is definitely for you. I'm going to share with you some tips and ideas, so things that you can do to help you remove the fear, ways that you can get yourself more comfortable in front of an audience. And towards the end of this video, I'm going to give you a couple of exercises to do as well, which for me have been the foundation stone of being able to move forwards and move beyond this. In terms of introductions, we may never meet personally. However, I think it's still polite to, introduce ourselves, as it were. So what I'm going to do is give you an overview of the video and the objectives and the things I want to achieve. I'm going to find out a little bit about you and really what's your thing? What is the thing that scares you when it comes to presenting? What is the thing that terrifies you when it comes to public speaking? What is it you are actually fearful of? Because I know oftentimes when I'm working with clients around this area, they will make these blanket global statements and actually they're not really true. So we're just going to maybe get a little bit more definition about what's going on for you. I'm also going to share a little bit about me and how I went from terrified of public speaking to the point I couldn't even talk to my own family, to doing live television, live radio, speaking at conferences, events all over the country, doing some stuff abroad and absolutely loving it. So I'll share a little bit about that as well. And I'm also going to share with you some possible future topics from this series and let you know how you can give me your input in terms of what you would like to see and the things that you would like to see me cover, because this is an area that I've been specialising in and working in for over 13 years. I started in the year 2000, so I've got weeks worth of content, and so I would love your input in terms of what you would like to see and what you'd find useful when it comes to public speaking, when it comes to presenting, when it comes to getting over the nerves and anxiety. So that's kind of what I've got in store for you in this video. In terms of what we're going to be covering a little bit more specifically, I'm going to show you that it really is possible to overcome your fear, even if you consider yourself to be quiet and shy and introverted and all of those things. I'm also going to identify 3 things that potentially might be at the heart of your inability to present with confidence. And I'm also going to share 3 simple yet really, really powerful exercises that will help you feel more calm, more confident and more relaxed when you are in front of an audience. That's really what I want to cover in this first video. First off, I want to find out a little bit about you. And as I said, I want to know what your thing is when it comes to presenting. And I've just kind of put together some examples, and you may have something different. But just as a starting point, is it that you are fearful of presenting to strangers? Because some people think, oh my God, it's an audience of people that I don't know. And that's the thing that terrifies them. For other people, it's the whole thing about presenting to people that you know, because they're thinking, oh my God, they know me. What if I embarrass myself? And da 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 da. So that's the thing that really gets them. For some people, they have a fear of speaking to small groups because they can make eye contact. You can see the whites of people's eyes. People are right there in front of you, and there's really sort of close proximity and contact. For other people, it's the opposite end of the scale, and they are fearful about speaking to large groups of people. And I know many people who fall into this category have what I call a threshold number, a number over which they start to feel nervous and anxious and that sort of thing. So thinking about which of those apply to you, if any. For some people, it's the whole thing about having to take questions. So they're absolutely fine with standing up, delivering a presentation, as long as they don't have to take questions. Because when you move into taking questions, there's a lot less structure. You don't know what's coming. And so for some people, that's the thing that terrifies them. And for other people, it may be as simple as the fear of using technology. And, you know, some of the talks that I do are what I call chalk and talk, where it's like you're just standing in front, you're talking, there's no kind of AV and that sort of thing. And other presentations, I mean, here we're looking at PowerPoint. So for some people, even the use of PowerPoint is like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So is it maybe more not about the speaking, it's more about the technology and the things that go into the speaking. So I will invite you just to take a moment to have a look through those things, think about what I've said, and if you've got pen and paper to hand, just very quickly jot down what it is for you so that we can be a lot more targeted and you can be a lot more structured in what it is you want to sort out. Because as I said, people make these blanket statements, oh, I hate presenting, and actually it's not that at all. There might just be particular things about presenting that they're not comfortable with. And what that means is you can then explore that thing rather than trying to tackle this great big amorphous blob. So just take a moment to have a think about that, jot down what it is for you so that as we're going through, you can be thinking about, okay, how can I apply that to my particular situation? Also, what I would invite you to do is a little bit of self-rating and a needs assessment, what I call a gap analysis. So really thinking about where are you now in terms of your speaking, in terms of your presenting, in terms of how you feel about getting up in front of an audience, and where would you like to be? And then when you almost imagine taking yourself over to your ideal state, point B, looking back at where you are now, and just thinking, okay, what are the skills that I need in order to get me from my ideal state, moving me from where I am now? And there's a little bit of a gap. So is it that you need techniques? Is it that you need to work on your kind of physiology and nerves? Is it that you need help with structuring your presentation? Is it that you need help with the technology side? So really think about, where are you now? Where do you want to be? And what is the gap between those 2 points? Because when you identify the gap, it means that then you can start again to focus in on, okay, what is it I need to do to bridge that gap? And you can start transitioning into that place. So just something else, you might want to pause here and jot those things down. It may be something you want to sort of mull over a bit later on. So a little bit about me, just to say hello and as I said, to introduce myself. My name is Marilyn Devonish. I'm the founder of transformationstm.com, and I specialise in working both with companies and organisations, so designing and delivering corporate trainings, leadership development trainings around things like public speaking, emotional intelligence, project management. I mean, you name it. Over the past 13 or so years, I've probably done most things. So one of the things is designing, delivering trainings, and also specialise in working with individuals and doing coaching and breakthrough and therapy sessions to help people overcome some of the stuff we're talking about here today, and all sorts of other areas as well. So that's a little bit about me. In terms of why I'm talking about this particular subject and why I'm so passionate about this subject is because my beginning and my starting point is very different to where I am now. So we just looked at the kind of where are you now, where do you want to be? I was in that place where I was terrified of public speaking. And just to put this into context, this is the character profile. So I was very shy and introverted. And anyone who's done, when I became a management consultant back in, 2002, one of the things we did is an MBTI profile, and all of the consultants did this. We'd use it for team building and looking at our strengths and where we wanted to improve and develop. And I remember sitting down with the person who was going through my profile, and at that point, I was already speaking, I was training, etc. And when he got the profile back, lovely guy called Vince, he looked at it and said, well, there must be some mistake because you're off the chart introvert. And I went, yeah. And he was like, well, how can that be? I've seen you standing up in front of clients. I've seen you on stage. I know you've got a TV show. How can you be introverted? And I just sort of said, well, I've learned to work with that, so it doesn't have to be a hindrance. I was very quiet, very shy, lacking in confidence, very low in self-esteem. And from that point of view, I would sabotage myself. So even when opportunities came up, I would find ways to mess that up completely because of all the other stuff that was going on. I didn't even know I was doing it at the time, but I was limiting my own potential. And I described it, when I look back at it now, it was as though I was living life as a spectator, where I was on the outside looking in, watching these other people moving forwards, watching other people out there, even talking to their friends and family and wishing that I could do the same thing. And that was really tiring. It's physically and it's emotionally draining. It really kind of weighs you down when you know there's something you want to do, and it appears that you are the one who's stopping and sabotaging yourself. And I know when I come off stage, people often come up, get a book signed or buy a CD or something like that, and they will often say, oh, you're so lucky to be able to stand up on stage and speak in front of all these people. You're a natural. And that's where I have to say, no, I'm not a natural. I didn't do a Lady Gaga. I wasn't born this way. There was no microphone in my hand from the age of 5 or 6. And just again, to put this into context, what I have just shared with you here in terms of my profile, that was my character, that was my personality right up until the age of 32. So I had lived my entire childhood, teenage years, and a large chunk of my adult life in that place of being quiet and shy and introverted, and really not thinking or believing that it was possible for me to be the person up on stage with a microphone in my hand, because that absolutely terrified me. So I just wanted to kind of put that up there. So for anyone who's listening thinking, oh, well, it's all right for you, it's like, no, I'm really in the place where many of my clients are when I first start working with them, where for me it was a terrifying prospect to stand up and talk in front of people. That was then, and this is now. And for those of you who are not sure what the point of this picture is, what I'm going to do is just show you where I am in this picture. So I used to be the person in the audience, and I would probably be the person at the back, sort of hiding away, never dream of even asking a question. That's how terrified I was of speaking in public. And now one of the things I do for a living is I speak at shows, I speak at exhibitions, I speak at conferences, I speak at events, and I love it, absolutely love it. And there was a time where if there were more than half a dozen people, again, I would be quaking in my boots. And now it's a case of the bigger, the better. And in terms of what I kind of do and how I kind of spend my time, what I want to share with you in this video is, how did I do it? How did I go from being scared of even speaking to my own family to being centre stage and absolutely loving it? And I'm going to share some of those kind of foundation pieces with you here today. In terms of what I do now, I mean, I had quite a traditional background. I did a business studies degree. I did a postgraduate marketing diploma with the Chartered Institute of Marketing, did various kind of other certificates and trainings along the way. So by the time I graduated, I had 5-6 years worth of really solid work experience. I had the degree, I had the postgraduate diploma, I had the teaching certificate, I had a number of other certificates as well. And I was too terrified to go what in those days we used to call the milk round. So I ended up for the first, I think, 5 or 6 years of my postgrad career, I worked as a secretary. And let me preface that by saying there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a secretary. I picked up the most amazing skills, which I use to this day. However, I was a secretary who was fully aware that I wanted to do more of my life. I didn't just want to be filing. I didn't just want to be photocopying. So eventually I decided that, I had a master plan. I know what I'll do. I'll become an accountant, because when you're an accountant, it will give me more confidence. Of course, that didn't work. It took me about 6 months to realize it wasn't going to work. And just in one of those fluke synchronistic conversations, somebody had said, look, have you ever heard of something called NLP? Because we use NLP for all of our salespeople, we use it for our customer service people, we use it for our trainers. It's a great way to just build up confidence and be able to present more clearly and be able to talk to people and actually look them in the eye rather than talking to the ground, which is what I used to do. So I went along to an NLP training expecting nothing more than being able to improve my communication skills. And if you're watching this as opposed to just listening to the audio, you will see that I'm now a master practitioner and trainer of NLP, a trainer of hypnosis, and a trainer of timeline therapy. And I was really skeptical about all of those things. So if any of you are watching this thinking, oh my God, NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, does that stuff really work? Absolutely yes, because that's what I did in order to move me from that place where I was like the little church mouse in the back of the room, the wallflower, to being center stage and loving it. I also became a coach, both a life coach, an executive coach, and a practitioner in many things. HUNA, EFT, DNA theta healing, emo trance, energetic NLP, access consciousness, archetypal profiling, tons of stuff. I also love the business side. So I spent, the last 10 or so years working as a Prince 2 project manager and management consultant. So going into organizations and, as I said, designing, delivering change management interventions and training courses. And I also teach photo reading and accelerated learning and work as a freelance writer and public speaker. And there was a guy that I worked with many years ago, someone called Johnny Wimbury. He would share something and saying, I'm not saying that to impress you. I'm saying it to impress upon you. So this isn't a list where you go, oh my God, wow. This is so that you can see it really is possible to change. It really is possible if you choose to move forwards and do something completely different. So that's really kind of what this is about. As I said, I also write for a number of newspapers and magazines. So anything to do with mindset, anything to do with emotional health and well-being. And I've been doing that now since, year 2002. So many, many years, more than I care to think about or quantify. So love this stuff. And it's something I'm eating, sleeping and breathing nowadays. Some of my clients call me the transformation lady. Some of them call me Little Miss Magic because they can sit down with me. And even after 10 or 15 minutes, we've had one of those transformational conversations and everything has started to change for them. So what I'm sharing with you here today are the things that I did and the things I now do with my clients to help them to change, to help them to transform. And in terms of the kind of the mindset thing, again, I've got many little nicknames: the mind alchemist, the mind magician, the mind mechanic. And again, for me, it's all about that thing around change and transformation. So the first book that I co-authored with people like Anthony Robbins and Paul Shealy and Wayne Dyer and Brian Tracy and Marie Diamond from The Secret was called Stories of Transformation. So I'm not going to bore you with any more of the overall life story. That's all in the book. However, I'm going to share with you some of the components that went into me being able to really enjoy the public speaking side of things. And in terms of future kind of videos in this series, probably going to look at things like how to structure your presentation for greater flow, for greater ease. Things like body language and physiology, how to use your voice for more power and more impact. Ways to connect with your audience, how to deal with questions, and really defining your personal style, because I'm not a fan of trying to be someone else when you're presenting. People often say to me, oh my God, you're the same on stage as you are off stage. And I'm like, well, of course, who else would I be? Because it's really, really tiring to try and be someone else. So it's about your personal style. Yes, of course, model excellence. If you see somebody doing something that's really fantastic, by all means model that. and make it your own. So those are things that we might look at in future videos. And as I said, I'd love your input about what you would like that to be. So just a reminder as we get started, this video, and hopefully I've already shown you it's possible to overcome your fear even if you are quiet and shy, because that was my starting point. What I'm going to do now is identify 3 things that might be at the heart of your inability to present with confidence. I'm going to share 3 exercises that will help you almost automatically to feel more calm and relaxed. And then we're going to have some action steps and some next steps in terms of getting you to think about how can you use what I've shared here today and take that forwards and apply it in your own life. So here we go. Number 1, in terms of getting to the heart of the matter, is the root cause. And this is so important. I can't begin to tell you. And I know for me, when I first started looking at this, I thought it was just about presenting, and I thought it was just about public speaking. But I started to realize very quickly there was a lot more going on there, and it wasn't just about the public speaking. I had more stuff that I needed to look at. And in terms of the root cause, I often find now when I'm working with people that it goes deeper and it goes wider than just presenting and public speaking. So be prepared to go what I call, and I say go beyond the presenting problem, because the presenting problem is I don't like public speaking, but be prepared to go beyond that, because in my experience, I've found that people, it goes, I know it sounds weird when at the outset, but once you start exploring it, you will see what I mean. But when you get to the root cause of what's going on for you, the fear and the terror and everything that feeds into that root cause and everything that feeds off of it will also disappear. And the reason why sometimes people think it's just about presenting is the root cause is well hidden. And it's like you see a beautiful tree in the trunk, you don't see all the roots and the stuff and the labyrinth that's intertwined there. But once you get to the heart of the matter, that's where stuff is going to start to be cleared. I'll explain that now in a bit more detail when we look at number 2. And number 2 is the whole thing around self-belief. And I would ask you to examine, what do you believe about yourself? And that's not just what you believe about yourself as a speaker, as a presenter, as a trainer, whatever it is. What do you believe about yourself overall as a person? And this is going to help you to get to the root cause of what might be going on for you. The next question is, what is the belief such that when it disappears, everything else will fall into place? And this was my starting point, because in the beginning I was thinking, no, I just don't like public speaking. I'm shy, I'm quiet. And then when I started to look at the kind of the belief side of things, that's when it was like, aha. So I'm going to share with you what it is for me. And I'm going to use myself as an example, because in the 12 or so years I've spent working with people and clients around public speaking, I know that what was going on for me is very common. And of course, there are going to be individual nuances to that. However, you know, take what I'm saying, apply it to yourself. It doesn't have to be exactly the same as me, but it will serve as a good starting point. So for me, with some digging to see what was going on with that root cause, it became very apparent that I didn't believe I was good enough and that I didn't believe I was worthy. And that went way beyond public speaking. It was the core of my life, essentially. And when you think about it, if you don't believe you're good enough, if you don't believe you're worthy, well, of course, you're not going to want to stand up and talk in front of people. I mean, what business have you got talking? What have you got to say? Why is anything that you've got to say important? Why would anyone want to hear from you? And for me, it was like, oh my God. And when I uncovered that and got to that belief about myself, it was like, my goodness, I could clearly see why I didn't have many friends. I could see why I found it difficult to even talk to my own family. And I could definitely see why I hated standing up in front of an audience, because when you don't think you're good enough, when you don't think you're worthy enough, you just want to hide away. So this impacted not just my public speaking, it impacted my entire life. And once I sorted that out, it started to then change and transform my entire life as well. But the beginning point for me was the root cause. and really getting to grips with what did I believe about myself, because that was one of the things that helped to uncover the root cause. So again, I would encourage you maybe to pause this recording and think about, okay, what do you believe, and what's the belief that when it disappears, everything else, a bit like the domino effect, everything will start to fall into place. And again, if you've got pen and paper, you might want to jot that down, because that's going to be a key component in moving you from where you are to where you want to be. So number one was the root cause. Number two is understanding what's going on with that self-belief or lack thereof. Number three is what I call state and physiology. And just to kind of get this into context so you can feel it for yourself in your own body, how do you feel when somebody comes up and requests that you come and speak, make a presentation, present at a conference, a workshop, even do a teleseminar? How do you feel? And just notice where you feel that in your body. It may be that you don't articulate it, you just feel it. And some people go, God, I feel sick to my stomach, or my heart's racing, or I can immediately almost feel my throat closing up. And so just thinking, does the thought of public speaking, does it give you palpitations? And do you suffer then from the things like the even imagining the dry mouth, what I call the oversized tongue, kind of, the feeling of disorientation? Because some people just feel disorientated as soon as they think about speaking. And your state and your physiology is key to what you are going to be able to stand up and present. So in terms of that, identify again what it is for you so that you can start to target and focus in on what it is. And if this were a video, this is where I'd hold up my bottle of water, but I'm going to shake it so maybe you can hear. One of the things I would first of all say to people before we get into kind of the tips to get you started is, if you know that you get a dry mouth, if you know that your tongue gets all sort of starts getting furry and that sort of stuff, have some water to hand. And when you are speaking, have it on stage with you. You might have a bottle of water. If you're at a nice posh venue, they'll provide you with, glasses of water. And then you might do what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to say to you, right, what I'd like you to do is just consider, how do you feel at the thought of public speaking? And do you suffer from any kind of physical symptoms? And then while you've got the audience to do that, and you might say you want to write it down, this is the point where you would stop and take a drink of water. Because your audience are busy doing what they're doing. And so that's the point where you have a natural break, create that natural break for yourself, have a drink of water if you need it. So first, number one, just to recap, we get to the root cause of what's going on for you. Number two, look at your beliefs. And we, in NLP speak, we would call those limiting beliefs. And then also look at your state and physiology, because when you get those three things handled, everything else can start falling into place. And I know sometimes people want to get to the good stuff. Well, how do I structure this? And how do I do that? And how do I stand on stage? It's like, you know what? All of that is academic. If you haven't got the foundations in place, if you are in a place where you feel terrified at the thought of public speaking, all of the fancy processes and structures and plans, none of that is really going to do you that much good, because the foundation isn't there. And that's why I'm starting with this as opposed to going into immediately all of the other process stuff, all of the other strategy stuff, all of the other structure stuff, because you need to have this in place. Otherwise, all of those plans are just going to kind of fall through the wayside because you're not in a good state. So what we're going to do now is look at some tips for getting started with overcoming the fear, looking at breaking down some of those kind of terror barriers and getting things moving. Number one, already said it, sort out the root cause. Without that, you have a very rocky foundation, and it will not take much to get you off balance. So the root cause has got to be the key thing that you look at if you know that the public speaking goes way beyond, oh, I'm just not sure how to use PowerPoints. That's the first thing. Number two, create internal calm. And there'll be a number of things going on here. There's the stuff that you're going to do with your mental preparation. There's your physical preparation. That will also include how you prepare yourself. Do you write out notes, rehearsal, that sort of thing. There's something that I call breath control. And we're going to talk about that in a bit more detail. There's also the piece about concentration and self-awareness. There's also something around expanded awareness. And again, we're going to talk about that in a bit more detail here as well today. And there's also the piece around connecting with your audience. And the connecting with your audience for me comes much more easily when you've got some of these other things in place that allow you to be internally calm, as opposed to having loads of stuff just floating around in your head. So to break down this whole thing about the internal calm in a bit more detail, and these are the exercises that I want you to do. I'm going to share 3 exercises with you here today. The first one is relax your breathing. Because when you're presenting, you're relying quite a bit on your brain, and your brain doesn't require too much of you. You know, good supply of oxygen, nice blood flow, good direction, and it likes to be hydrated. And so we've already talked about the water thing. Create a natural break for yourself where you can stop and take some water. With regards to the oxygen flow and the creating good oxygen exchange, breathing is the way to do that. When you relax your breathing, it gets you out of shallow or chest breathing. What it also does is starts to slow down the heart rate and the heartbeat, and that lessens your anxiety. And you might think, why am I wasting? Everybody's breathing. Of course, if you were not breathing, you wouldn't be watching this video. Let's get that clear. However, there are ways of breathing. And one of the things I notice when I'm working with clients, I say, right, well, just take a deep breath before we get started. I'm going to show you some exercise. I'm going to show you some physiology. I'm going to work on your physical posture, that sort of thing. And many people take a deep breath and go, and they almost kind of suck their stomach in, because that looks like the way to do it. However, if you do that, what it does is it starts compressing the lungs. And what you want to do is you want to have full access to the lungs, because that's where the real oxygen exchange takes place, in the lower part of the lungs. So what you want to do when you breathe in is have the stomach come out slightly. And then as you breathe out, that's where the stomach would go in. And it's a bit like the way babies breathe. If you ever watch a baby breathing, their stomach kind of goes in and out as they breathe in and out. And if you allow your stomach to come out, what that means is the diaphragm creates more room and you can fully breathe down into the lungs. So what I'm going to encourage you to do right now is just take 2 or 3 deep breaths. And if you have a breathing practice already, use that. Because I teach Hawaiian Huna, there is something in Huna called ha breathing. So I tend to use ha breathing. That's the thing I would teach to my clients. But if you have a breathing practice, use that. So just take a deep breath in and exhale. Take another deep breath in and exhale. And another deep breath in and exhale. And just notice how you feel. Do you already feel calmer? Do you already feel a bit more still? Do you already feel more grounded and centered? Because that's the thing that will happen. And I always say to people, look, if you're in an open plan office, if you're standing up on stage already and the speaker's introducing you're there, you don't have to be on stage kind of doing a big Zen breathing thing, but just taking a couple of gentle deep breaths. You can do that quietly. You don't have to make a song and dance about it. I've done it noisily so that you can hear me on this recording, but you can just do that very quietly, very easily. And that's going to start calming the body down. That's going to start slowing the heartbeat. That's going to start making sure that the body and the brain are fully oxygenated so that you have full access to your brain capacity and you can think straight. Because quite often when the rabbit in the headlight thing happens, a couple of things are going on, and one of them is a shallow breathing, which means there's less oxygen flowing around the body, there's less oxygen then going to the brain, and you can't think straight. So the breathing is absolutely key, even though it sounds very, very simple. So that's exercise number 1, relax the breathing. Exercise number 2 is change your mental focus. And the way I would summarize this is focus on what you want. Now, often when I do an initial consultation with someone around working with them on their, public speaking, presenting skills, nerves, anxiety, confidence, self-esteem, whatever it might be, I will say, okay, so what is it you want to achieve as a result of this breakthrough coaching session? And they'll say, well, okay, I don't want to be nervous. And I say, great, what is it you want to achieve? Well, I don't want to feel anxious. Great, what is it you want to achieve? Well, I don't want palpitations and I don't want sweaty palms. Great, what is it you want to achieve? And at this point, some of them get a bit antsy, or they'll go, well, sorry, is there a right answer? What do you want me to say? And then what I will do is I'll just feed back to them. I say, so I've asked you what you want to achieve. And what you've told me is that you want to feel nervous, you want to feel anxious, you want to have sweaty palms, you want to have palpitations. And of course, they'll laugh and say, well, of course, that's not what I want. That's what I'm here to work on. But in the way that they are saying it to themselves, in order for you to think about not being nervous, you've got to think about being nervous, then cross it out and flip it over. However, oftentimes you don't get to that flip over point, because as soon as you start thinking about being nervous, that has a neurological effect, and automatically your body and your mind connect in with that thing of being nervous, and you actually start to feel nervous, and then that takes people down a spiral, and that takes them on the slippery slope to feeling nervous and having the palpitations, having the anxiety, having their throat closing up, having their tongue expand in size, and all of those other things. So simply, I would say, look, think of it like a coin. If you don't want to be nervous, what do you want instead? If you don't want to feel anxious, what do you want instead? If you don't want palpitations, what do you want instead? And it's almost like not this, this. Imagine flipping a coin. On one side of the coin is what you don't want. On the other side of the coin is what you do want. And then I will say again to people, so what do you want as a result of doing this coaching? What do you want as a result of doing this breakthrough session? What do you want as a result of us working together? And they will then smile and say, I want to be more calm. I want to be more relaxed. I want to be more in flow. I want to be able to present without notes. I want to be able to think clearly when I'm in front of an audience. I want to be able to connect with the audience from a place of centeredness and calm and enjoy being on stage. And that is a whole different proposition, because to think about being calm is very different from thinking about not being nervous, even though you're trying to get to the same place. So your mental focus is absolutely key. So again, what I'd encourage you to do, you might want to pause this recording. Again, jot it down if you have pen and paper handy, and just ask yourself, when you are thinking about presenting or standing up to present, where is your mental focus? Is it on what you don't want? Or is it on what you want? And if it's on what you don't want, that's fine as your starting point. Write down all the things that you don't want, and then say, okay, what's the flip side of that for me? Because the flip side is different for everyone, and you'll have different ways of putting it. You'll have a different kind of language. The only thing I would say is make sure that what you do want is in alignment with it. So move away from the I don't want to be nervous, go for I want to be relaxed, or I want to be calm instead. So that's the second thing. Change your mental focus and focus on what you want. And number 3 is change your physical focus. And this, depending on your school of thought, depending on kind of where you've done your training, or, the sorts of things you've come into contact with, the exercise I'm going to share with you here is called a number of different things. When I first learned NLP, it was called peripheral vision. When I teach photo reading and accelerated learning, we call it expanded awareness. And from the Hawaiian Huna perspective, there is something called hakalau. And in a nutshell, you can have 2 forms of physical focus. You can be in tunnel vision, so you're just focused on what's going on in front of you, what's ahead of you. And tunnel vision sets off the sympathetic nervous system, which is a body's natural fight or flight response. And that's fine if there's a threat. So in the days where you might be confronted by a lion, a tiger, a bear, great. You want to be like, oh my God, you want the heart racing, you want the adrenaline pumping. You want to just have to make a really quick mad dash for it. However, many people present in tunnel vision. And the threat is no longer a lion or a tiger or a bear. The threat and the thing that makes their heart race, the thing that makes their adrenaline rush, is the audience. And that's not the state you ideally want to be in when you're standing up to give a presentation. So what you want to do is invoke the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the body's natural relaxation response. And one of the easiest and quickest ways that you can help to invoke that parasympathetic nervous system is by being in peripheral vision, expanded awareness, or in Hakalau. And if you're watching this on the video, take a look at the picture that I've selected. And I've chosen this one. Yes, it's a lovely picture about showing the chakras in alignment. What I want you to pay attention to is the light that's emanating. So there's a big yellow circle behind it. Imagine that's your eye. And if you see the strands of light coming out from that, that's what expanded awareness or peripheral vision would look like. Rather than just having tunnel vision, your vision is opening up, it's expanded. You can see what's going on around you. And when you're in that state, the body naturally starts to relax. And one of the things that is really key and beautiful and amazing about this state is it also starts setting off left and right brain integration. Because when you're in that fight or flight response, creativity kind of takes a back seat, and the real kind of primitive part of the brain just kicks in and says, are we going to run? Or are we going to stay? Are we going to freeze? However, when you're presenting, you want both the left and the right brain working together. You want the logic and you want the creativity. And if you're just in tunnel vision, you lose access to some of that creativity. And that's often where you've stored your presentation. So if you close down access to that, that means you end up being the rabbit in the headlights when you're on stage, where you're doing the and you're, if you've got notes, let me find a bit of paper. If you've got notes, you're, fiddling with your notes and all that sort of stuff. And that's not the place that you want to be in. So when you change your physical focus, neurologically, you're also going to be changing what's happening to you inside. You're going to be much more calm, you're going to be much more relaxed, and you've got left and right brain integration working together. So what I want you to do with this exercise is find a point that's in front of you and just look straight ahead. And it might be something that's just gently above eye level. Just make sure you're comfortable. And then while you're continue looking straight ahead, but imagine your field of vision and awareness is opening up and expanding. So keep looking straight ahead, but on the corners of your awareness, on the periphery of your awareness, just notice what's happening on your left and on your right. So I'm sitting in my office at my desk, so I'm looking straight ahead, I'm looking above my screen, but I can see my screen, I can see the curtains on my right, I can see a case of CDs and the kind of filing drawer on my left hand side. However, I'm still looking straight ahead. And in future videos, when we talk about how you can connect with your audience, this is going to come into play in a really big way because it serves a number of different functions. However, for now, we're using it just to get you in a place where you're more open, you're more expanded, you're more relaxed, and you've got access to left and right brain, which means you can think clearly, and it means you can remember and recall everything that you wanted to say in the presentation, even if you're doing it without notes. So that's a third exercise. Change your physical focus. And one of the things I'm going to be doing later on this year is I'm going to be giving a presentation for a school in London that teaches martial arts. And they're one of the only schools that teach the kind of pure Bruce Lee version. And what I'm going to be speaking on is mindset, and where the invitation came from. I did a short presentation on photo reading, and photo reading in a nutshell, it's an accelerated reading and learning technique. So how to get through written information and remember what you've read. So typically it takes 5 minutes to photo read a whole book from start to finish, and then you're learning strategies to be able to remember and recall that. And the person who ran the school was in the audience of this talk, and he came up and said, oh my gosh, I really, really want you to come and do a presentation for me, because everything you're talking about relates to what we're doing in martial arts, and it relates to what I'm teaching people about, not just the Bruce Lee method, but the Bruce Lee way of thinking. And in terms of what I'm sharing with you here, there's a lot of overlap, because a lot of the stuff I'm teaching in photo reading is a lot of the stuff that I will be, some of those elements I'm also teaching when I'm talking about public speaking. So if you do something like martial arts, really start asking yourself, okay, is there any way that I can move this across? Because oftentimes people are really confident in one particular area, yet they're not confident in another. And I say, look, if you've got the skill over there, you've got the skill over here. So you might want to start thinking at this stage, okay, where am I relaxed? Where am I confident? Where am I calm? Where am I eloquent? Where am I able to speak when I'm in flow? And everybody has somewhere where they can do it, even if it's just talking to themselves. So start also thinking about how you can map some of those skills across. And also, as a sideline, identify, okay, what's different in those situations? Because when you identify what's different, again, you can start targeting in and you can start sort of changing some of that. So I think that's more than enough mind melding and enough to think about for one sitting. As I said, I know people are always going to go, but what about this? What about that? It's like, you know what? My mum used to say, don't run before you can walk. So seriously, the stuff we've talked about, I know it sounds really simple. I know it sounds really kind of basic. However, it packs a massive punch and it's powerful stuff. So definitely go back, look at your notes. Watch this again, go through those exercises. They will make a massive difference. So what I want to do now is just very quickly whiz through some future topics and things that I'm going to talk about. And also, as I'm going through these, I really would love you to think, okay, what has she not said that I would like to have covered? Because what I'd really love is your input. So what would you like me to cover? And if you have any thoughts, if you have any ideas, drop me an email. It's marilyn@transformationstm.com, and I'll put that up on the screen after we've done this. If you're on my Facebook page, Facebook me, it's, /Marilyn Devonish, Twitter /Marilyn Devonish, LinkedIn, guest /Marilyn Devonish. But I'd love, love, love your input. So this is what I kind of have in mind for future topics. Looking at stuff like body language, how to build rapport, really kind of, important stuff. Looking at the format system, which is a system that I use when I'm structuring my presentations. Looking at how you can deliver powerful and convincing presentations. Looking at what it takes to communicate with impact and some of the key skills and traits and qualities of that. Looking at how you can structure your presentation so you're not going on a wild ramble and ending up with no destination, how you can be really clear and focused about what you're doing. Looking at how you can use your voice for more impact, looking at the key components of communication with impact. And one of the key things here right at the bottom is energy. That is so key. I cannot begin to tell you. Also defining your personal style, because as I said, it's not about trying to be someone else. It's identifying who you are and then working with that. Also, the whole thing about when you're into the presentation, how you can develop a compelling opening. Also, one of the things that people often ask about is making use of notes and props. So giving you some thoughts and ideas and tips and techniques and little tricks about how to do that. And also how to speak the audience of your language so you're connecting with people regardless of whether they are in your demographic. Because I've done everything from teaching in schools, I taught photo reading for many years in schools, working with 8-year-olds right through to 16-year-olds. Also spend a lot of time working in local authorities, done that for over 10 years now. And oftentimes I'm working with people who are quite senior in their teams, a lot older than I am. And then also working with kind of teenagers, young people when I'm out doing talks and presentations. And each of those audiences will be slightly different. And so there are ways that you can find to connect with the audience, even if you don't initially think you have that much in common with them. Also, the whole thing around, how to deal with questions, because that's one of the things that really, really kind of terrifies people, how to build rapport so that you're on the same wavelength with your audience and how you can really kind of create that sense of connection with people. Also, maybe looking at things like anchoring, where you can hardwire yourself to be really, really calm, really, really relaxed and enjoy speaking. And the anchoring thing was for me one that made a huge difference. I remember I was speaking, I think it was a Vitality show at Kensington Olympia in London. And I arrived and I was just chatting to the woman who was putting the microphone on people. And I was going to be speaking after, Tony Buzan, that was it. And she said, oh, Tony's been brilliant. He's amazing on stage. I went, yeah, I know, he's fantastic. And Tony's been one of my heroes for years. And, you know, I now teach mind mapping as part of photo reading. However, I started mind mapping when I was about 10 years old. So I've always loved him. And she was saying, oh, it's interesting, though. I've noticed with some of the speakers that when I put the mic, they're really fine and they're really chatty at the beginning. But when I put the microphone pack on them, they change. And it's almost like they start, they're coughing and they're spluttering and they're, you know, clearing their throat. And those little signs of nervousness are creeping in. So their voice isn't quite what it was at the start. You know, it's almost like they're kind of going inside a bit. They start maybe kind of losing focus. And I thought, I know what that is, because previous to that, I'd done the thing where I could stand up on stage and I was just talking to people. But when I first did a big presentation, they talked about the microphone. I could feel my heart racing, going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I thought, I know what's happening here. I'm being negatively anchored to the microphone. And so what I decided to do was anchor myself so that when I see the microphone coming, when the microphone pack is on, when the headset is on my head or in my ear, I'm going to feel excited. I'm going to be like, okay, let's get this show on the road. Let's get ready to rumble. Let's do it. And so I changed the anchor that I had around the microphone. But when she was talking to me about what was happening to people when they had the microphone on and then when they went on stage, they were kind of different to the person that she was chatting to. And so the anchoring thing is really, really key. And I'll probably do that as an exercise in one of the future videos as well. And also just kind of looking at some of those basic success strategies and looking at how you can become more empowered in what you're doing. And also not just empowering yourself, but empowering your audience to be able to move forwards in the way that you choose and what you intend for them with that presentation. So we'll look at some of that stuff in future videos. And as I said, if you've got any ideas, if you've got anything in particular you'd like me to cover, then I'd be happy to sort of take that on board, have a look at it and see what I can do. So in summary, in terms of what we have looked at in this video and our little rapid fire whiz through some of the core stuff and the foundations, we've looked at identifying the root cause. That is absolutely key. Identify the root cause of what's going on for you when it comes to public speaking, when it comes to presenting. Number 2, look at your core beliefs, because what you believe about yourself is going to transmit through to your audience. Even if you think you're hiding it, even if you think you can put up a mask and a persona, people can see through that. And even if they don't see it consciously, unconsciously on some level, they know there's something not right and they're going to pick up on a sense of incongruence. Number 3, change your state and physiology so that it supports you rather than sabotages you. Number 4, create a sense of internal calm so that your focus is on what you want and your focus is on what you want to deliver for your audience, because you want to get outside of yourself. You don't just want to be inside, because I've seen people present to themselves basically. You know, they're in their own little world. It's almost like the audience is irrelevant. So when you've got that sense of internal calm, it then allows you to go outwards and connect with your audience more powerfully. And also, and this is one we haven't yet touched on in this recording, we'll talk about it in the future, but have a clear sense of purpose. And I'm just going to say very briefly, purpose is what you want to deliver, what you want to impart to your audience. And I worked with someone recently. I was coaching someone around, they had been invited to do a TED Talk. And if you haven't ever looked at the TED Talks, just go to TED.com. They are amazing. Everyone from Steve Jobs, from Oprah Winfrey has done TED Talks. And so I'm coaching someone who's been invited to do a TED Talk. They're a little bit nervous. They're a very good speaker, but nervous about the fact it was TED, because that comes with, you know, for them a weight of responsibility. And they were also not clear about how they wanted to structure the presentation, because for a TED Talk, you get between 16 and 18 minutes, so not a huge amount of time. And they were saying, well, how can I connect with my audience in that short of space of time? And how do I leave them with, you know, something useful? And they decided that they wanted to inspire people. And this was a few weeks ago. I cannot tell you how many messages I've had from this client saying, oh my God, well, number one, people came up at the end of the talk and were saying, oh my God, that was inspirational. Oh my God, I'm inspired. And it wasn't that my client was talking about being inspired. That wasn't part of the presentation. They weren't using those words. However, they had a clear purpose in terms of what they wanted to deliver. Not only that, when people were watching the TED Talk on Twitter, on Facebook and all the rest of it, my client has been getting emails from people saying, oh my God, that was so inspirational. So oftentimes I would say to people, pick a word, something that you want to impart to the audience, and don't use the word in the presentation. That's not it. However, when that's your intention, when that's your purpose, people will come back and use that word back to you. And the first time it happens, it's really uncanny. You're like, whoa. However, it's powerful stuff. And that also ties into what I was talking about with the energy, which we'll also look at in a little bit more detail in a future video as well. So that's a little summary of what you've covered here today. In terms of taking some action, what I'd like you to do is identify 3 things you have learned as a result of watching this video. And hopefully you've been making notes, or at least mental notes if you are a practitioner of accelerated learning. So just think about, what 3 things have you learned as a result of watching this video? And then what 1 thing will you put into practice? So it might just simply be playing with the relaxing your breathing and getting better oxygen flow around the body, because that has loads of other health benefits as well beyond public speaking. It may be that you decide to focus on playing with the peripheral vision and expanded awareness, because that's going to bring with it more of a sense of internal peace and calm. It may be that you focus on your mindset and what is it you're thinking, what's going on in your head. You want to flip that. Or it may be that you sit down and possibly look at your beliefs and what you believe. So just kind of 3 things you've learned, and then pick 1 thing that you will put into practice. Put a time scale on that as well. When do you want to do it by? And then give yourself the green light and go for it. So action, absolutely key, because it's all very well listening to somebody yabber on like myself. However, if you don't put it into action, if you don't sort of do anything with the information, then it's all academic. So I would definitely encourage you to take some action. I just want to say thank you for your participation, for listening and watching this video. I really hope that you found it useful. I really hope that you've got some good tips and ideas to take away. And as I said, if you've got anything that you kind of want to feedback about, if you've got a topic you'd like me to look at, by all means, get in touch with me. Yes. So what I'd love also, a little bit of fun to finish off with, if you want to send me a short summary of how you've applied something from this video, and email me, it's Marilyn, Marilyn, at transformationstm.com, and that's TRANSFORMATIONS, TM as in trademark. So Marilyn at transformationstm.com. And send me a little summary, and the one that resonates, I will send you a copy of my Presenting with Confidence DVD, which was a DVD from a show that I had a show for a couple of years, The Life Success Show on Sky TV. Used to go out on a Saturday morning, and so I will send you the Presenting with Confidence DVD if yours is the little summary that I resonate with. So that would be a bit of fun. And if you would like to sort of get in touch, if you've got any questions, any queries about anything that I've talked about here today, you can email me, as I've just said, Marilyn at transformationstm.com. You can go to my website, www.transformationstm.com. And if you click on the resources tab, I've got loads of free downloads, MP3s, some really nice clearing processes with the Huna and Access Consciousness that you might want to download. I've also got an MP3 of some of the Huna processes, not just the breathing, but lots of other things as well. There's something called Ho'oponopono and the forgiveness process. You can let go of some old stuff and limitations. It's all completely free of charge. You just need to put a valid email address in. So go to the website, go to the resources tab, download some free stuff. You can also give me a call, and there's a proviso to that. I'm on the move a lot, so my preferred choice of communication is email, because I can pick that up on the move. I don't have to stop and dial into a voicemail, write notes, blah blah blah. And also, if you would like a free telephone consultation, then by all means drop me an email and we can have a chat, and I can maybe help you pinpoint some of the things that are maybe sabotaging you, some of the things that are getting in the way. So by all means, drop me an email if you'd like a free telephone consultation, and just drop into the mail that you've watched the video and that I kind of made the offer of a free consultation. So that's really all from me. As I said, I've been Marilyn Devonish. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you today. I really hope that you found it useful, and do check back with my YouTube channel for future recordings. Thank you.